Tonight on CTV News, we'll take a look at the national election, as well as how the CSU Police Department are preventing bike theft on campus.
Then we'll dive into the propositions on the Colorado voting ballot and what to expect for Border War Week.
All that and more on CTV, starting now.
Good evening, Rams. I'm Ren Wadsworth.
And I'm Kenneth Frederick. Happy Election Day, Rams.
2020 has been a year of the unexpected, but as we move into the election for the 46th President of the United States, Colorado State University students are glad to have some control back in their hands as they cast their votes.
Our current president has committed countless atrocious acts. I think it's extremely inappropriate that he's still in office. He was impeached. He doesn't behave appropriately as a president, and I think that reflects poorly on America. So.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Trump. I haven't enjoyed his time in presidency the last 4 years. I think, I don't think he's very respectful to a lot of people in this country.
I'm not the biggest fan of Biden, but it's also he's not Trump.
I think Biden and Trump are both more radical than I like to support, and I think just like I'm not really a big fan of either of their characters.
Yeah, and I think it's time we break free from two-party shackles, because the founding fathers themselves warned us about it, and yet the presidents following them started making parties. They've been facepalming from the grave ever since.
The results of this election are much anticipated, and as results are announced throughout the week, we'll keep you updated on our social media, as well as going more into depth on Thursday night's show.
The United States voter turnout might be the highest since 1908. More than 99 million people casted their ballot as of Monday evening. We've already passed the 2016 voter turnout, which was 54.8%. On top of that, the voter turnout for young people is breaking records. According to presidential candidate Joe Biden, there's a huge turnout of young voters between the ages of 18 and 30, and women are the majority of that vote.
Colorado State University students also spoke openly about their fears of possible riots depending on the outcome of the election.
I've been pretty nervous about this day and this week for the past, few months. It's like, just seeing how things have been going for the past couple of months, with the Black Lives Matter incidents and Corona and wildfires and also their madness that we've been hit with lately. I was just really nervous about, rioting and more, craziness, people just screaming and hating each other.
I think if Trump's elected, it's going to be much worse. I think every young person and, person against Trump is going to come out and, vocalize that.
The direction I want America to head is not in the direction of rioting, and I think no matter who wins, I think the goal should be to bring down the intensity of politics in America so that there's more room of middle ground discussion.
No matter the conclusion of the 2020 election, try to stay safe, CSU, and remember that Rams take care of Rams.
United States District Judge Emmett Sullivan ordered the USPS to find all of the undelivered ballots by today at 3 this afternoon. However, the USPS refused to meet the deadline. Sullivan ordered the USPS to sweep its 12 postal facilities that serve 15 states for over 300,000 election ballots that could not be traced. The USPS denied Sullivan's order because they would rather stick to their own schedule.
Even though polls have closed for the night, students spoke about why they thought this election was so important to participate in.
This is probably the biggest year in America's history for quite a while, where I think there's a lot on the line. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and I think it's a really good chance to get how you feel out there and then make an actual influence in the country.
And I think we just need change. And because these last 4 years, we have been so divided as a country, and what we prioritize, the economy versus human life and human emotions and whether they feel welcomed in this country. So I'm hoping that, this is a big mark for our country.
Especially people my age, we couldn't vote last year, and that impacted us for, 20% of our life. And so now it's like we have this opportunity to better ourselves, better our community, help out so many people. And so it's like, why would you not?
Now, students proved this was true due to the high voter turnout at both CSU and in Colorado.
What was once known as Election Day may soon be understood as Election Week. With record high numbers of mail-in ballots due to COVID-19, both the process of counting and making predictions are on a much more timely matter than they have been in the past. The first polls close at 6 tonight in Kentucky, whereas both Alaska and Hawaii close nearly at midnight. No state is required to report final results on election night, so don't expect to have final results by the end of the evening.
Well, that's all we have for national election coverage.
But don't go anywhere because we'll be back after weather with local election news. Welcome back from the break, Rams. Once again, I'm Kenneth Rederick.
And I'm Ren Wadsworth. Now let's shift more towards local election news. Although Colorado has been considered a purple or swing state for the past several elections, it is looking to go blue in 2020. Interestingly enough, the state was primarily Republican from 1920 to 2004, but has voted for the Democratic candidate in the last 3 presidential races. This transition is said to be due to younger, college-educated people making up the majority of the population in Colorado, and their tendency to vote and lean left. Here's a preview of what Colorado's ballot's going to look like into the election. Looks like we're going to touch on Proposition EE, Proposition 113 through 15, and Proposition 116, as well as Amendment 76. And we're going to be talking about these issues coming up next.
The senatorial race has been a heated one in Colorado ever since John Hickenlooper dropped out of the race for the presidency and started running for Colorado's senatorial position. Hickenlooper, the Democratic challenger, is taking on Cory Gardner, the Republican incumbent. They disagree in many ways on issues like gun control, an issue that has been prominent in Colorado due to past events like the shootings at Columbine and Aurora. Gardner's position on the issue is that there needs to be more support for mental health issues, while Hickenlooper advocates for stronger gun control. There are many other issues that Hickenlooper and Gardner disagree on. Students have a similar feeling to how they felt after the first presidential debate, underinformed and upset by the nature of us versus them that the candidates portray.
They both have great viewpoints, but it's just they always take it way too far. So, yeah, even it out.
The Electoral College is outdated and ridiculous, and we need a popular vote. The Electoral College does not make sense in this day and age.
Yeah, I think we should just keep the Electoral College. I mean, I think it should be a Colorado decision, not a national decision.
I mean, I'm not against Electoral College. I've heard some people who are really against it, but I think I see why it's necessary to balance out the votes. But something's not right with the way it's run.
I don't like the idea that votes are wasted when you're in a county that's going to go a certain way.
One proposition on this ballot this election season is 113, which determines the presidency based on the popular vote rather than the Electoral College. Voters in Colorado will decide if the state will join 14 others in passing the national popular vote. The national popular vote law will go into effect when enacted by states possessing a majority of the presidential electors, or 270 out of 538. The electoral votes from those states will be awarded to the candidate receiving the most votes in all 50 states, as well as the District of Columbia. This proposition comes after grievances that the Electoral College doesn't accurately speak for the majority of voters. Students at Colorado State University have their own opinion on the matter of the Prop 13, though.
The Electoral College is outdated and ridiculous, and we need a popular vote. The Electoral College does not make sense in this day and age.
Yeah, I think we should just keep the Electoral College. I mean, I think it should be a Colorado decision, not a national decision.
I mean, I'm not against Electoral College. I've heard some people who are really against it, but I think I see why it's necessary to balance out the votes. But something's not right with the way it's run.
I don't like the idea that votes are wasted when you're in a county that's going to go a certain way. Your vote doesn't matter as much. But I think it also does help with general representation of people across America.
For more conclusive results of Proposition 113, stay tuned to Thursday night where we'll break down the election results.
Vapers on campus may have paid particular attention to the Proposition EE, which will determine whether or not vape products and nicotine juices will be taxable under Colorado law. Right now, nicotine products are only taxed by a state income tax, state sales tax, unlike tobacco and cigarettes, which both have sales on and tobacco taxes. The money brought in by the nicotine tax would be used for things like education and programs that reduce the use of tobacco and nicotine. Many students supported taxing vaping products.
Voted yes for it, even though my mom smokes the e-cigs, and she doesn't make a lot of money, but I mean, whatever, it's not good for you.
We actually have some breaking news for you here, Rams. According to polling, Proposition EE is leading with a vote of yes by 72%. Yet, other students were skeptical over whether or not the revenue generated by the tax would be really used for education.
I have this voice of caution every time I read a new tax proposition that mentions funding the schools, because I feel like that's pulling at the heartstrings and very little money is actually going to benefit the students.
We also have an update on Hickenlooper. He is in the lead by 61.5%, but looking a little bit more at Proposition 115, it's also on the 2020 ballot and delves into the 22-week abortion ban initiative. A yes vote would support prohibiting abortions in Colorado after the 22-week mark, while a no vote would oppose prohibiting abortions after the 22-week mark. A no vote would maintain current Colorado law that does not restrict abortion after a certain point in pregnancy. While the votes are being tallied, students at Colorado State University offered their opinions and where their vote lies with 115.
I don't support late-term abortions. And so I voted against that today.
I said, I think a woman's choice is her choice. I think it's her body. She decides what she wants to do.
But I think late-term abortions shouldn't be controversial, just because at 22 weeks, I think a baby can feel pain.
I find it very offensive that people want to control women's bodies. I find it very invasive and inappropriate, and I don't think it should be on the...
Now, Colorado polls currently speculate that 115 is in the lead with a no vote with 66%. But for final results, you can tune in on Thursday night as election results for Proposition 115 and other issues on the ballot are broken down.
One issue on the ballot this year includes the reintroduction of gray wolves into Colorado. Gray wolves were pushed out of Colorado centuries ago by hunters and trappers. But Coloradoans are voting to see if the wolves will be reintroduced into the ecosystem west of the Continental Divide. Many people think that wolves would be good for the ecosystem.
I personally think it's not a terrible thing, just because it kind of restores some of that natural ecosystem that was here, but it's definitely going to be a concern to hikers and stuff like that.
The argument against Proposition 114 comes from ranchers who are worried that large carnivores would be a threat to their livestock.
Because I did a little bit of research, and it did say it would compensate anybody who gets affected by the reintroduction of the wolves, so I thought that was fair.
Breaking news from our studio as of right now, 275,000 people voted in Larimer County compared to the 2016 election, where the amount of people voted was 176,543. The Larimer County voter turnout is at 72%. For the official voter turnout in Larimer County, be sure to tune into CTV on Thursday at 7.
In Colorado, voting requirements are a little different from other places. 17-year-olds who turn 18 before the general election will no longer be able to vote in the primaries if Amendment 76 passes. The amendment also deals with non-citizens voting by changing the phrasing of our Constitution from all citizens have the right to vote to only citizens have the right. Students feel that the right to vote is important and that it's a right for everyone.
I kind of go back and forth because, it says in the Constitution everyone has the right to vote, but at the same time, if they've only been here for 22 days in Colorado specifically, I also feel like they don't have they're not a proper representation of what the state. I'm for the amendment, but then again, at the same time, everyone deserves the right to vote as long as they're of legal age.
That's all of the election news we have for you as of now.
We could be giving live updates as we receive them, so stick around.